Welcome to Unjaded. This is your straight talk, shoot from the hip, wrapped in a little bit of love, human design for business podcast. We talk a lot here about clarifying your message so that you can bring in paying clients with ease. And ease is different from easy. Stick around to find out how we roll here. I'm your host, Vickie Dickson. I am a 2-4 emotional manifesting generator, light on the emotional, and I'm a quad right in human design. In real speak, I am an entrepreneur of 30 plus years. I've had every kind of business there is, and I always say that business is my love language. I can't wait to dive in with you here on the podcast.
So my guest today is Domenica Million. Domenica is an author, a book author, a coach, and an editor. And I'm excited to have her here because I know that if you are a listener on this podcast, then you probably have a dream somewhere buried inside of you of writing a book, publishing a book. So that's what Domenica is here to talk with us about today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Vickie. I'm so excited to be here.
So can you tell me a little bit about your work? Like, what is a book coach? I know what an editor is. What does coaching do around book writing?
Oh, good question. So just like somebody might go to a life coach or a business coach, it's a specific coach for their interest or what they're trying to accomplish. And for me, that's for authors, for people who maybe have never written a book. Actually, most of my clients have never written a book and it's their first time. So I really help them to bring their book into form, to teach them what they need to know about writing a book. Because one of the things I find a lot of people tend to have this limiting belief like, oh, I don't have an English degree or I don't have a creative writing degree. How can I write a book? And the thing is, you don't need a degree. Most people who have books out there weren't formally trained. So that's where I come in. I help you with my knowledge. I started out as a copy editor. So I help you with my knowledge of copy editing and and I'm an author as well, like you said, bringing that book into form, teaching you exactly what you need to know in order to write the book, like the actual mechanics of the book, and to help you move through creative blocks or limiting beliefs, because just like anything that we're trying to accomplish, and maybe we feel like it's a big dream and we don't know how to do it. And like, who am I to have this big dream to write this book? I have learned through my own experience and experiences with my clients, there is a unhealed wound there that's telling you you can't write this book. And it could be something from your childhood. Maybe a teacher like really went hard in on you on some paper that you wrote, or maybe you had a creative writing assignment that was maybe short stories and your professor or your teacher told you that it was trash. Or it could be something like with my block was always having this idea in my head that I couldn't finish a project. And this came from me having many, many hobbies that never actually amounted to anything. I would pick up a hobby and then quit it a week or so later. Like it was something constant. It was this pattern constant in my life. So I cleared that block and realized the reason that I couldn't finish a book was because of that story that I had been playing on repeat in my head. And so I find that a lot of people who struggle to finish a book, maybe they start to write a few pages or they write a few chapters and then they quit. And then they get frustrated with themselves and they're like, I have this book on my heart. I just want to bring it out into the world. And there's a block there. So with my one-on-one clients and with my workshop clients, I dig into the reason, the root cause of the purpose you can't write the book. So yeah, that's basically what I do as an author coach.
Okay, one thing is that sounds super exciting. And another thing is, if you're listening or watching here, then you may have noticed that Domenica just gave her human design away. So she said that she had all of these projects and she kept quitting them. And she finds that authors oftentimes, or would-be authors, oftentimes start a book and quit, and that they get frustrated. So what does that tell you about Domenica? I forgot to introduce her design in the beginning, but she is a 4-6 generator. So as a 4-6, you're so uniquely designed to hold your people. Not everybody, but hold your people and really stand as a role model for them. I think that you're in the phase right now where you're integrating your life's lessons of that 6-line profile. So there's so much juice that you can share with your authors that you're working with. And I love how you're talking about how generators, as a generator, you started things and quit and started things and quit and started things as quit, because that's what we do as generator types oftentimes. That's a lot of our conditioning. Our wounding is around that quitting, but it's sometimes necessary to quit and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, sometimes something that you start, it could be knitting,
Yeah.
and you start doing that for a while and you find that, oh, this is a little bit too tedious for me, which was my experience with knitting. I was like, I don't know if I can continue on, and it's okay to quit. And I think part of the reason I did quit so often was from a very young age. My mom was always very adamant. If you don't like something, if you're struggling with something, just quit it. Like you don't have to, yeah, you don't have to keep going. So I think in a lot of ways that helped me because I learned that I could leave toxic jobs and I could leave toxic relationships. But on the other hand, it also taught me when things get tough, just quit. And that's not always conducive, right? So when I was authoring my first book, my first full book, that came up for me a lot was why do I keep quitting in the middle? And I would get a few chapters in and then I would abandon it. And then I would come back to it weeks or months later, forget where I was, like forget what was happening in the story. And I would get so frustrated. And that's part of my
Your not self is frustration.
my not self. Yes, is frustration. I would get so frustrated with myself and I'm like, oh, and then I would blame my mom. Well, this is all my mom's fault because she told me that I could quit whenever something got hard. And I kept that story so deep and held in my body that learning through actually doing and getting my nervous system regulated so that I could finish the book was key. That was the piece that unlocked me being able to finish a book to completion. And for anybody out there who has a book on their heart and they keep doing the same thing that I was doing, I would love to get to the root cause of what is stopping you, because we have so much evidence that writing a book is really not that hard. Just walk into any bookstore. I mean, the book industry is like a $10 billion industry. So it's not for lack of authors.
Yeah.
Some of these companies, these bigger companies, the big five, as we call them, which is Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, Macmillan, Hachette, and there's one other one I'm forgetting. But anyway, they have, so there's like a whole process with traditional publishing. You have to first find an agent, and then that agent has to go around and shop your idea to these publishers. And they can only take so many authors per year. So that's why a lot of people get discouraged when they keep getting rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. And it's not because your book isn't good. Your book could be great. It's how much bandwidth does each company have realistically to publish all of these books? They have to be super selective, which is why I also cater to self-published authors. I'm a self-published author. I actually, I don't know if I want to say it, but I'm just going to say it. I am starting, WordWitch is starting a traditional publishing company. So yeah, soon I will be taking submissions. And we're completely disrupting the normal method of how a person gets their book published. I won't go into that, but all of that to say, the publishing industry tends to be super saturated. So there is no lack of people who are writing books and finishing them and having them shopped around to all of the publishers out there. So it's hard. I'm not going to lie. Writing a book is super hard. It is very like shadow work. driven. Like you are going to do some shadow work when you start writing a book. And it doesn't even matter if it's a spiritual development book, which is what my specialty is in. I'm a fiction author though, which is kind of a paradox, but it really doesn't matter the genre that you're writing. Writing a book is difficult. You're gonna bring things to the surface that you never knew were there. Things that need to be healed. And that's either because if you're writing a spiritual development book, you are probably writing about things that were past wounds, childhood traumas. Like your goal is to teach your reader the method or the thing that helped you get over whatever it is you got over so that you were able to come more fully into your whole self, into your higher self, and that sort of thing. So you're going to have to take a good look. You're going to put those wounds under a microscope for the entirety of you writing this book. So not only are you kind of healing yourself again, maybe healing those traumas that had never got fully healed the first time around. I have noticed with a lot of my clients, they start writing this book and they're an expert in this area and they know that it changed their life, and then they start getting like re-traumatized in a way. So having tools to help you through that, making sure that while you're writing this book, you have somebody like me, somebody who's trauma informed, somebody who is maybe a psychiatrist or psychologist or a therapist of some sort to help you through those really tough moments, or a spiritual advisor, just somebody to help you through those moments where you're maybe re-traumatized because you're writing about this thing. So you're experiencing it again. And maybe it got trapped in your body still and it hasn't fully gotten out of there. So you do end up healing yourself while also healing your readers. So that's one of the things that drives this business, is knowing that the people that I work with are getting their message out into the world. Somebody is going to read that message, get healed from it, or start their healing journey from it, positively affect their life and the lives of the people around them, right? Because when you heal the people around you. And it creates this ripple effect that kind of just starts to multiply, and more people can be healed from just one book. And I think that's incredible. And that's why I do this work.
There's so much in that I love. One of the things, though, that I see you really using in your design is that undefined emotional solar plexus of yours. So because you have an undefined emotional solar plexus, you're able to tap into the feelings and emotions and be emotionally wise for others, not always for yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes for yourself, it can be hard because, you're internalizing all of those conversations that you wish you'd had differently, and all of the things that you think are wrong with you, and all, people pleasing, conflict avoidance, all that stuff lives here, lack of boundaries. But for other people, you can be immediately so wise because you've had so many life lessons there. So I love that. And then I know we talked about this in an earlier conversation where you are using your innovative circuitry. So I love the idea of this book publishing company and how you're going to do it differently. You're here to be a disruptor on the planet. You're here to mutate. You're here to change something. And that is so prevalent in your design, but also in this business that you're I know you've already developed it, but that you're taking to the next level, let's say. It's such a beautiful use of your design. I'm kind of curious, what mistakes do you see authors making when they are in that writing process, if they're not working with a coach? Like before they get to you, what is the big mistake that you're like, oh my God, if I could just get in there and fix that?
So one of the biggest things, and it's a part of my framework, is consistency.
The word everybody hates.
Exactly. It's one of those things that feels so hard to grasp because naturally, especially people who have full-time jobs, who are mothers, who are caregivers in some sort of capacity, we tend to not have a lot of time on our hands, right? Or perceived time. And so it's the consistency piece where if you are in the middle of writing a book and you start going, you kind of like carve out this time for yourself to write the book, and you're going and going and going and you're doing good. But then something happens. I don't know, your alarm doesn't go off in the morning to get you ready and you lose a day. And then it's like, okay, well, I lost that one day and nothing bad happened. Like I'm still alive, I'm fine. And then you miss another day and another day and another day. And so this lack of being able to stay consistent is really one part of an unhealed wound that you have within you. And two, it's really the crux of finishing a book, right? Because the only way that you're going to finish a book is if you compound your time, right? So with compounding, we know the more that we do it, the bigger it grows. And the same thing happens with writing a book. So if you were to invest, let's say $100 into a savings account that accrues interest, by the end of, let's say, 10 years, you might actually have $120, or well, hopefully your interest rate is better than that, but you know what I mean. So the money compounds every day. And every day that you work in your book, your words are compounding. So it's moving your book in the direction of being finished. And it can be messy, right? It doesn't have to be this, and it's not. By any means is your first draft going to be perfect and like exactly how it's going to be once it hits the shelves. But at least you're getting the words down. And how I kind of get around that or teach people how they can better be consistent is a couple of things. So one, you have to set your word count goal. You don't know what the end is. Like if I'm just writing this book and I don't know how long it's supposed to be, I'll just write forever, right? You have to have some sort of parameters, some sort of like boundary that's like, okay, once I hit this word count, I'm done or close to done. So setting your word count goal is super important. And when you are writing a nonfiction, they vary. They can be anywhere between 40,000 words to 90,000 words. I really wouldn't go above 90,000. So having that word count goal sets almost like a guidepost. Okay, I have to write this amount of words to finish the book. And then you kind of work backwards. And it's chunking your time to reach a word count goal every day. So let's just say I want to, hit 40,000 words, which is relatively low, but it's a good starting point. How long, you have to do the math. How long is it going to take for you to hit that word count goal based on how many words per day that you're going to write or how many words per writing session? Because not everybody can write every day, and that's totally fine. But you have to do the math to figure out how long is it actually realistically going to take if I stay consistent. And that might be 200 words a day, 1,000 words a day. It really depends on how quickly you want to finish that book. So if you want to finish it in 6 months, your word count goal at the end of the 6 months is going to be that 40,000. And then working backwards with calculating how many words per session do I have to write. So that's just one piece. The other piece is finding time in your schedule. And I know that this is like super difficult because we have so many things going on. And it's like, I can't wake up any earlier. If I wake up any earlier, I'm going to get no sleep. And that is totally, totally valid. So typically what I tell my writers is figure out how many months you want to work on this project. When do you want to finish this? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Okay, we figured out, let's just say 6 months. What things are you doing in your day-to-day where you can find one thing that you can take off your plate? So instead of adding your writing sessions, take away something that maybe doesn't serve you or that like isn't really helping in any way. So that might be, I'm not going to binge watch Netflix for 2 hours. I'll binge watch for 1 hour. Or it could be, well, maybe I will take this one hobby off my plate. Let's just say every Saturday you go to a pottery class. Okay, for the next 6 months, I'm not going to go to my pottery class and I'm going to sit down and write because that is time. I don't have to be a mother. I don't have to be a wife. I don't have to be insert whatever title that you have. This is time for me to focus on my interest. And, that's kind of part of self-care, right? We want to make sure that, yes, we are taking care of the people in our lives and we're taking care of our responsibilities, but where is that self-care piece? And writing your book is a part of self-care because, like I said, one, you're not only healing yourself, you're healing the world, but two, you're also giving yourself something that's been on your heart for a really long time. And I know for especially my spiritual development authors out there, they have, since their spiritual awakening or since they've had these like massive up levels and jumps in their career, in their life because of their spiritual tools, they want to get their word out. They want to tell the entire world, this thing is awesome. It works. And I want to show you how to do it too. I know that that book is on your heart. And that is why it's also self-care, because you need to get this book off your heart. You have to get it out of your body. And that was one of the experiences I had with my first book was I knew like this book was just sitting there and it was like haunting me. And it was just like, it would not leave me alone until I got it out onto the page. And then it's kind of this relief, right? It's like you feel like you've gotten this weight off of your shoulders and it can keep going. You don't have to just stop with one book. You can keep writing until your heart's desire. So yeah, that's basically in a very long-winded answer. That is the number one problem that I see with my beginner authors.
So I love that you talk about it's the work on your heart and it's like getting it out of your body. And this is the healing process, which is so important because I think that a lot of times as authors, we look at instead the impact. We look at the big picture. We look at the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious, scary goal that feels so massive instead of like being a relief. I love how you spoke to it can be a relief to get this book out of your body. That I think will put a whole different spin on it for our listeners if you're listening and wanting to write a book. And it's interesting. I'm looking at your chart as you're speaking. I'm like, oh my God, she speaks like herself. Because I follow writers. I love to write and I follow writers. And Stephen King in his book On Writing talks about how he is so good. It's like the best book.
It's so good.
Green Lights. Green Lights is also very, very good. Matthew McConaughey, but On Writing is so good. And he talks about how he does this kind of writing like you do. He has a word count in his mind. He has a specific, I'm going to write for 2 hours. I'm going to write for 3 hours. It's his life. He's a manifesting generator. Mm-hmm. Whereas Julia Cameron, the artist's way, is completely different. She uses pockets of time everywhere. Of course, she's famous for her morning pages.
Yeah.
Which I hope if you're listening, you've adopted because even that will change your life.
Yes.
But she instead grabs little pockets of time. She's like, no, I see the biggest mistake writers making, thinking that it has to be huge when you could really grab 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there if you're just always writing. Julia Cameron's a projector. So it's just interesting to see how we use our designs. Now for you, I wish I had their variables in front of me to look at. I don't, but when you're speaking, I'm like, well, of course, she's very strategic. She has these left-facing arrows by her head center on her human design chart, which we call variables. And with those left-facing arrows, you are so designed for structure. Now, I'm something in human design that we call a quad right. It's only 0.05% of the population, and everything in my life has to be about flow. So if I were to set up my life to write in this way, I would never write a page. But if someone needs structure, it's like you got to get into Domenica world to get your book written because she's going to put the structure in place with you, I would assume, not for you.
Yes.
To work with you to get your book out onto the planet. And then the healing too. Yes, you're healing the people around you, but you're also healing at least 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. That motivates me so much. It's like, oh my God, this is for my lineage. This isn't just for me.
Yes. Think about that. It's really incredible. And healing ancestral lineage is something that is very, very prevalent in my life. Ever since 2022, I did an ayahuasca retreat. And ever since then, realized that I'm on this journey to heal my past ancestors, my lineage, is it called epigenetic material? Yeah, like my epigenetic line. And I love that. And no, I don't have children of my own. So it's not like I'm going to like extend my healing out into the world. But Hopefully I'm
Mm.
healing enough people in my lineage where they can release their karmic debts. They can um, come more into their whole spiritual selves up there, wherever they are,
Mm.
or the next lifetime that they jump into, because I believe in reincarnation. So if they're healed because of some work that I did and they go into their next lifetime with that thing healed, that makes me feel good.
Mhm.
And no, I don't have to see the evidence, right? It's not something that we're ever going to see. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. You're going to do something like heal this wound or this curse, this generational curse that's been following your lineage for such a long time. And when you leave the planet, you're not going to see the repercussions of that. It's going to be an energetic shift within the entire cosmos, the entire fabric of our universe. So it's kind of like like that saying, I think it's a Chinese proverb, where it's like you don't plant a tree today for you, you plant a
Mm.
tree today for the next generation. Um, so yeah, and just thinking about the people who are here in my lifetime physically that are my, family members, my parents, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. When I heal, hopefully my belief is that they are also receiving the healing too, because we do have that sort of like quantum physics interconnectional, like on the atomic level, we are connected through the atoms of my grandmother or great grandmother, whoever. And yeah, so for you to write this book, heal yourself, heal your lineage, and then maybe if you do want to be a mother, to give that healing to your child. Oh my God, how special is that? Because I know from being a child of an unhealed parent, and we all do, and it's not saying that they're bad people or whatever. It's just that's where they are on their spiritual journey, and that's fine and it's perfect, and that's how it was designed.
Mhm.
And seeing how, okay, if this part of my mom was healed and she had passed that on to me, I might have an easier time in this area of my life, whatever it is. Maybe it's the quitting thing for me, always quitting that stuff. And maybe there was a part of her that also had that experience, so she passed it down to me. If that part of her was healed and she passed it to me, I might not have such a hard time with the, quitting my hobbies. So yeah, I love that you bring that up.
And I think, and I know you're not blaming your mom at all. It's never about blaming our parents here.
No.
Everybody's on their journey for a reason. But I'm picturing your mom. I'm like, I wonder if she's a manifesting generator. Do you know that?
I don't know my mom's chart. I don't know if she knows her exact birth time.
Mm.
I think I might have asked her before, and she wasn't sure exactly what time she was born. So yeah, no, I don't know for sure, but it would be interesting
Yeah.
because we're actually both Capricorns, but she is the type of Capricorn who is sort of the stereotype of a Capricorn, where she is very organized, very focused, very, she just takes a task and she does it. Like there's no challenge for her to do a certain task. Whereas for me, I feel like I'm on the cusp of Aquarius. So I feel like sometimes I tend to take Aquarian traits where I'm a little bit more like less structured,
Mm.
um, a little bit less organized. And so for my whole life, we've kind of butted heads. She's always been like this sort of like very conservative, very strict person, whereas I'm on the other hand, like I'm a free spirit. Like I just want peace and love and just like spirituality. And I'm very much, I live a lot in my Pisces rising energy. And so we butted heads for my entire life, I think, because of that dynamic. But yeah, I would love to know, what she was, but unfortunately, we don't know her exact birth time.
Yeah. Well, there's ways that we can rectify that birth time for her if she really wants to know. But she definitely, I would suspect, just from what you're saying, she definitely has some manifesting energy in her, whether it's manifesting generator or manifester, where you can just go out and make things happen. But
Mhm.
also, like the manifesting generator, we are so conditioned that our quitting is wrong.
Yeah.
So, because we do a gazillion things at once as manifesting generators, whereas I find generators, so often they have that experience where it's hard to get something started. It's hard to get it going out of the gate. But then which again, when we relay that to your work, that's why you need a book coach. That's
Yeah,
why you would work
exactly.
with someone to get your work out into the world. If it's important to you, it's a good idea to have some support there and nothing's going to have more of an impact probably, or a wider impact, than publishing your book
Hmm.
on the impact you want to leave in the world, even on your business. I know you work mostly with spiritual entrepreneurs, but what do you see the effect being on their business when they actually publish that book?
Mm. So part of the reason that I do this is that writing a book positions you as the authority in your niche. So for people who have a business specifically in their spiritual modality, that could be parts work, it could be human design, it could be tarot reading, it could be anything that will be a tool for a person to take, replicate, add into their lives, and then heal themselves. And so for the spiritual entrepreneur, what it does is it validates you as a practitioner or a teacher or an entrepreneur of that thing. So, for example, Gabby Bernstein, right? I think a lot of people know who that is. Before she had published her books, and I think the one that really made her rise to fame was The Universe Has Your Back.
Mhm.
She had written a couple before that, but she was also holding these, before she had become like this big name, she was holding these healing sessions in her apartment in New York City. She was bringing women together in community, figuring out like what they needed to heal from. She was using a lot of like Dr. Wayne Dyer's work, and she was healing people in her community. When she published her books and rose to the type of fame that she is seeing now, and maybe some people don't want to be famous. I sure as heck don't want to be famous. I was just saying this to another person on my podcast that fame scares the poop out of me. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. Um, so that's not something that I want. But for people who do want career success in the thing that they teach, a book validates you. It tells people you know what you're talking about. And yes, of course, there are people out there who write books that are completely off base. And you're like, this doesn't make sense at all. Like you have nothing backing your arguments. Like there's no reason for you to have written a book. Like you don't know what you're talking about. There are cases like that. They're very few and far between. But automatically, when somebody picks a book up off of a shelf and they look at the author, they're not questioning whether or not that person really knows what they're talking about. They wrote a book and it's published, so they must know what they're talking about, right? And that's kind of the thing that happens for my students and for other people who are maybe smaller creators or smaller businesses. They write a book, they put it out into the world. One, it generates passive income because you're selling your book, right?
Mhm.
So it's generating passive income, and it is also positioning you as the authority in your niche, or an authority in your niche, because there are many. And so people automatically perceive you as somebody who is knowledgeable in this field, who is an expert. And so they're more motivated to work with you. So you get more clients, you get more speaking opportunities, you get more, in the grand scheme of things, you get more money because of the opportunities that are brought to you. So that's really the transformation that you can see in your business, is being able to maybe leave your 9-to-5 job so that you can pursue your spiritual career full time. So yeah, that's really the benefit. And to speak again to the passive income piece, it's also a marketing tool, right? You can say, if you say you want to do a TEDx talk, putting down on your resume that you have a published book. It doesn't even have to be published from a traditional publisher. self-publishing is starting to get a little bit more of a better reputation than it had in the past because people are starting to realize that they do have to hire editors. They do have to do these things in order to seem credible, right? To have that you've written a book on your resume for a TEDx speech is like amplifies how credible you are as a speaker on this topic because you've written a book, right? So yeah, it just completely transforms your business.
We talk a lot on Unjaded about content creation.
Mhm.
And I am especially a lover of long form content, what I call long form content. So anything that's going to outlast the 6 seconds that your reel is going to be popular on Instagram.
Mhm.
And your book is the ultimate piece of long form content creation that can serve your business for the rest of time, really.
Can I just say something about that?
Mm-hmm.
So for digital creators like you and I, or other people out there who are digital-based businesses, your book also, one of the really cool things that I've been noticing with my students who want to create digital courses or they want to create digital products so that they can sell it sort of on autopilot and make their money consistently that way. Your book gets your message and your teachings super fine-tuned to the point where you could then take that book and create a course from it. And that's one of the things that I'll be teaching in my next program, the Woo Woo Writers Academy, is if you already have a book or if you have a course, because it can go vice versa.
Exactly.
If you have a course or a book, you can take that and make it the other thing. And so that's one of the really cool things about the transformational piece about your business and writing a book. You get super like laser focused on what it is that you teach, the methodology, the frameworks, all of the things that helped you get from maybe an unhealed sort of version of you to this healed version part of you, or even if it's tarot, right? It could be something that's, more like you're more of a reader, whether it's psychic mediums or human design teachers, whatever it is that you're teaching, there's probably a reason that you teach it or that you read people for it. So if it's tarot, maybe you read tarot because you want to help people to realize who they are and how they can be successful and how they can use tarot in order to create the lives that they dream of. So if that's your message, how can you then take your knowledge of tarot, put it in a book for that specific thing that you want to teach about? And it could be, tarot for people who are looking for partners, like their soulmates or whatever. Put that in a book and then take that book and make it a course and then sell the course. So there's so much opportunity when it comes to writing things down. And this is why I also super love Julie Cameron's work and things like that, because if we're consistently and constantly writing, we are getting our ideas out onto paper, where if they stay up here in the mind, they're just kind of rolling around in there and they don't have any sort of tangibility, it's just going to stay there. And you're not going to be able to create the course. You're not going to be able to write the book because it's still just an idea. But when you put that idea out onto paper, and you can see it and look at it and read it and fine tune it and edit it, then it really starts to take shape. And you can be like, okay, this is how I healed this one part of me, and see the methodology of how you got there because you're writing all the time. Maybe you even, one of the things I love to tell my students is keep a journal on the very thing that you want to write a book about. So what you do is you buy a brand new journal. You start to write all of the experiences that you had from your past that created the thing that you needed to heal from. So if that's abandonment issues, you write down all of the stories, all of the things that culminated into this abandonment wound that you now carried and then healed. Write all of the stories up to the point where you had your transformation. Write about the transformation. How did you heal from it? What were the modalities? Just write all of the things. And then as you go on in life, as you're even writing the book, if you feel like things are still coming up for you, continue to write about that topic until you feel it's fully formed and fully complete. And you can do this in tandem with writing a different book. So if you are, let's just say, writing a book about one thing and you had not kept this journal, that's totally fine. I'm not saying that you need to have a journal with all of those experience for your first book, but it's just this thing where a lot of times we're in the middle of a project, and because we're being so creative, we have other ideas of other things we want to write about. And instead of just putting those things on the back burner and saying, I'll get to it when I can, you can keep this journal for the next time that you start writing a new book. So your new book now has material. It has things you can pull from because you've already written them down. Now you just have to formulate it into a book, right? So, yeah.
It's like a content plan for authors.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for a content plan these days. Yeah.
I know. And, I find within my own business, the reason for that is because we see other people who've been successful with this thing that we're trying to create. Maybe it's you have the desire to reach 10,000 followers on Instagram. And then you start looking at people because we need a roadmap. We need an example that we can follow so that we can be sure if I follow this example, I'm going to reach that eventually. And for content creation, I feel like it kind of, I'm talking like social media. It could be a little bit misleading because the algorithms are constantly changing. So something that worked in 2020 is not going to work today. So, but with book writing, I mean, it's the same process. It's been the same process since people started writing things down onto clay tablets or papyrus, right? It's the same method. That one piece of, I call them natural writers, which are people who can just write. And Stephen King is an example of a natural writer. From the moment he was able to write, that's all he did. And that's all he does every day. Well, not all he does, obviously, but he does write every single day. He doesn't miss holidays. He doesn't miss birthdays. He writes every single day. And that is a natural writer. For somebody who doesn't have that natural ability to come to the page with absolutely no judgment, and that's one of the pieces of limiting beliefs, is that you might be afraid to come to the page. And that's why you're not progressing in your book, is because you're afraid you're going to get it wrong. You're afraid of maybe being seen. So what does actually publishing the book mean for you in your personal life? Does it mean that you reach a different level where you might leave other people behind? Is it going to maybe launch you into a success that you're not used to? And you're actually afraid of success. And that tends to be an unconscious wound or limiting belief, is a lot of people want the success, but in reality, they're afraid of it. So the reason that you can't come to the page like that consistently every day, like Stephen King, is usually because you have some sort of unhealed wound, like I was saying before in this podcast, that is stopping you from coming to the page every single day. And you kind of just have to find out what works for you. What is the thing that helps you heal that wound and helps you to move that stuck fear out of your body? And for me, I'll just give you an example of how I do that is through breath work, and specifically holotropic breath work, because it puts your vibration on such a high level that it sort of unlocks those creative pieces or those creative sides of you, because and in my belief, when we write, doesn't matter what we're writing, we are channeling either the collective, spirit, higher self, whatever you want to call it. We are channeling the collective unconscious. And that book is coming through you as if you are a conduit. So you're almost channeling the book into reality. And so when you can connect to that higher part of you, that higher self, through things like breath work, where it puts you in a different psychological state, you can connect better with your creative self, because your higher self doesn't believe in limitation, right? It just is pure energy. It's pure love. So when you can tap into that and use it for your writing, is when you can truly get into flow and write your book and finish.
There's nothing like being in flow.
Yes,
as
it
a
is the
creative.
best feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one more question for you before we close this up. I would love to address what seems to be the elephant in the room in every creative circle right now, and that is AI.
Okay. Oh, I love the topic of AI. All right. So, as an author, your book should not be written with AI. So, there is a sort of an ethical standpoint when it comes to using AI, and also for my spiritual teachers who want to write a book, ghostwriters. And I don't mean to put down ghostwriters. I'm not saying that they don't have a place in the industry. I think that they do, especially when it comes to people who don't have certain capabilities of writing. Maybe they don't have literacy, or maybe they don't have the use of their hands to actually type, or the use of their voice so that they can speak text onto the Word document. So there are uses for those things. However, how I see it is, if your name is on the book as you, the author, you should have written it, not somebody else and not AI. And it's misleading. It's telling people that you wrote this book when in actuality you didn't. And, you know, with a lot of biographical and autobiographical books, they do tend to, especially famous people like Britney Spears or Matthew McConaughey, like they typically use ghostwriters because that's one, they probably don't have the time, and that's just not their jam, right? But as a spiritual teacher who is conveying a message to the reader, if you didn't write that book, you are then misleading the reader by saying that you did. And there's also the energy piece. So whenever we speak, whenever we communicate something, our energy is what the person on the other end receives, right? So the way that I am speaking right now in a certain manner, a certain tone, you, the listener, might have an experience of me where I either attract you or repel you. And when you tell your story, or if I tell my story to somebody, whether it's written or whether it's spoken, the energy of the words that are carried out into the universe are read by the recipient, by the reader, or by the person who's listening to me. And they can feel the energy of that truth or of that falsity. So if you are writing a book and you hire a ghostwriter, or if you hire AI, that person or that AI does not carry your energy signature. Your reader is not going to resonate with the material in the book because you had this artificial thing try to sound like you, try to write the story for you, but it didn't come out of your body. It didn't come from your channeled higher self down into your body, onto the page, through your fingers. Your energetic signature, which is like your fingerprint or your eyes or your, whatever biometric thing that we can use to measure. Your voice also has a signature. Your speaking voice does your voice when you write. So the biggest issue with AI is, one, the ethical piece, especially in the spiritual and self-help spaces. And two, the energetic exchange that it takes for somebody to write their story in a way that's going to resonate with the right readers, because you won't resonate with every single person, right? And that's just the reality. Go on any website where they have reviews of books, and you will see really great reviews and you will see terrible reviews. And that's just because those people didn't resonate with your message or with your story, whatever it was, and that's okay. But for the majority, you're going to resonate with most people. So when can we use AI as writers? There is something I encourage people to do with AI, and that is brainstorming and outlining. You can use it as another person, like to bounce ideas off of when you're like, okay, I have this book in my brain that I need to get out, and these are all the things I want to talk about. What might that look like in a book form? What kind of outline might that be? Because one of the most important things is outlining your book in a And there are people who are pantsers or people who are outliners. And it doesn't matter what you are, but in the spiritual development space, I find it's more conducive to your work if you do outline your book first. That way you know what to write in each chapter, and it doesn't have to be super detailed. But what AI can do is help you take all of the ideas that you have in your brain. And this might be for people who don't have human design types that automatically make them super structured and organized. If you're kind of one of those flighty people who have like ideas bouncing around your head and you don't know how to bring them together in a cohesive way, AI can help you to do that. So you can formulate the structure of your book and the outline of your book, but that is where it ends. Once you have your outline, once you know what you're going to say, then the onus is on you. You have to then write that book, because AI is not going to carry the same energy that your voice, that your lived experience has had in order to be able to tell this story, so your energy signature can come through and resonate with the people that it's meant to resonate with.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
And I know that on Amazon now, when you publish a book or when you promote a book on Amazon, you have to actually check a box that says whether you used AI at all on that book. I was at PodFest earlier in the year, and there was an author, very much in air quotes if you're listening, rather than watching. And he wrote an entire book using AI and published it. And he says right in the description that it was written by AI. And I mean, personally, I'm like, why would I read that? I would not take my time to read. I could just pop my own questions on his topic into ChatGPT and have them spit out the answer. Why would I take the time to read a book? So I think it's a conversation that's going to continue to get more and more important as we move on into this new era that we're in with in the age of AI. I think it's going to be more important than ever, your voice. I know your voice is going to be more important than ever.
Oh, yeah. And people do not want to read AI generated books because it didn't come from an artist, right? It didn't come from a writer. It just came from this bot that anybody can do. And yeah, it might be a really cool story. And especially if it's fiction, it might be like the coolest epic fantasy with like really great characters. And that's because AI knows how to just do it because of all the books that it's been fed. But your uniqueness, your ability to create worlds, your ability to put down onto paper your lived experiences, AI can't match up to that. It just can't. And I think we're in an age where we could go into TJ Maxx or Home Goods and we can grab a piece of art from their art section and hang it on our wall. And it'll be like a $20 painting, right? But if we go into an art gallery where an artist actually sat there and created it, and it wasn't just some machine that painted this thing, it's much more expensive, isn't it? So if we do ever kind of shift, and I'm glad that a lot of publishers are stopping this from happening, they're halting the production of AI generated books. So if you walk into a gallery and you purchase a piece of art because an artist actually created that, the same thing might actually happen for books. We might get to a point where, and I pray that this doesn't actually happen, where AI is so saturated in the publishing market that purchasing a book from a real human, somebody who actually created the thing, is going to be a lot more expensive. I don't want that to happen because then it limits access to literature. And it limits, it limits who can purchase those things, because in actuality, people who go into art galleries to purchase paintings from real artists, they tend to be on a higher socioeconomic level than just the regular person walking in from, on the street. And so we want to make sure that literature and people who are literate stay a thing, right? Because being able to read is power. If you can read a book about history, about philosophy, about anything like that, if you can actually read the words and take on the message of that, that is going to make you a powerful person. Somebody who can't read isn't going to be a threat to anybody, right? And yes, you can listen to a book now, like with Audible and audiobooks and stuff like that. But having access to literature is so important. And it doesn't have to be like in a physical book form. It could be ebook form, just as long as you're reading, as long as you are experiencing life, right? I feel like with technology and social media being so easy to fall down rabbit holes and spend a lot of time there is doing a disservice to a person's soul. Because before technology, people read books, they read periodicals, they read all of these things that then gave them a lot of sense of fulfillment in ways that a lot of social media tends to not be able to give us, because we end up on these really negative loops of things that are just happening, that time old saying, if it bleeds, it reads. And the same thing happens with video media. If you're seeing like these terrible things that are happening all the time, you're just going to keep getting sucked into this terrible thing loop. Whereas literature can take you into other worlds. It can heal you with nonfiction. It can broaden your mind with philosophy. It can do all of these wonderful things. So keeping book writing in the hands of human beings is super important. And publishers have, thank God, they have been super adamant about you not using AI to write your book. They won't take submissions from books that were written by AI because they know it can completely collapse the publishing industry. And that's obviously not in their best interest. So yeah, all of that to say, your words have so much value. And by not sharing your words, you're doing a disservice to yourself, and you're doing a disservice to the people who can receive your message and heal from your message. So get it out. Don't use ghostwriters. They cost a lot of money to use a ghostwriter anyway, when you can write the book for free for yourself. And yeah, get your words out onto paper, publish it, and heal the world.
That seems like as good a note as any to finish on. So tell me where our listeners can find you.
Yeah, so I am on all of the social medias at WordWitchCC, C for copy, C for consulting. My website is wordwitchcc.com. I have various things in the pipeline that are about to come out with different courses on how you can write a book. And the Woo Woo Writers Academy, I'm hoping will launch sometime in September. So yeah, that's where you can connect with me. And I actually have a free offer for your listeners. I will provide that link to you once we hop off this call. But yeah, so thank you so much, Vickie, for having me. Thank you for listening, listeners out there. And I hope that we can connect and get your book out into the world.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. This is a great conversation. I appreciate you.
Thanks. I appreciate you too. Bye.